Good afternoon. Welcome and thank you for joining us on this webinar. Oracle and Ndevr are really pleased to be able to showcase for you how Australia's JD Edwards users are enabling and adopting robotic process automation. Before we begin, I do need to give you a moment to review Oracle's Safe Harbour statement and ensure that you're aware that what you see in today's webinar is intended for information purposes only and cannot be incorporated into contract or interpreted as a commitment to deliver. Now that that's out of the way, I can introduce to you your presenters. I'm Shah, Ndevr's Marketing Manager, and I'll be manning the controls. Your experts for today are Kalpesh Shah from Oracle and Thiele from Ndevr. Kalpesh is a financial technology professional with over 16 years of experience across JD Edwards solutions. He's an expert in the field of enterprise digital transformation journeys and has significant hands-on expertise with end-to-end lifecycle implementation across different geographies and industry sectors. Anne is a senior functional consultant for Ndevr. She is a highly regarded JDE consultant with extensive hands-on experience supporting customers in their never-ending quest to squeeze more from their applications. Anne applies her enterprise application expertise to numerous industries and is frequently engaged as both a trainer of trainers and trainer of end users. Now today, Kalpesh will be sharing with you all the background information, so how JD Edwards is enabling connectivity and how RPA is making life easier for end users. Then Anne will cover off how some of Ndevr's customers have embraced RPA, and she'll talk about some of the processes that customers have automated within their organisations for themselves. At the end, Kalpesh will give us a brief product update and we can address any questions that...
Thank you, Shasha. And yes, good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. I'm Kalpesh Shah, part of the solution architect team in Oracle, based out of Sydney, Australia. Now, disruption. Now that's the word that we continuously use in the product development language, where we want to disrupt the current process to make it more better for the future, make it more better for our users, make it more better where it can be taken up to the next level. There is always a chance for improvisation. There is always a chance for innovation, and that's where digital transformation disruption plays a very, very critical role. We need to understand that there are so many business models going out in this world. There are so many different technologies that are being used in terms of making life easier or even complicated at times. You never know. But definitely there's a way, there's a method in the madness that in terms of how to do a particular process in a smoother and in a nice fashion, so that it reduces errors, eliminates any doubts, and at the same time it's able to improvise for the future. Some of the digital technologies that we have been using or that we have come out with in 9.2 is a lot of things with integrating with other softwares. It's the orchestrator, or connecting the orchestrator for a process using and then notifying the business users via the mobile with a notification. So that's how the whole process in terms of whole technology is being utilized to connect all the different dots externally, revolving around JD Edwards, making sure that they work with JD Edwards and providing the vital information to our business users wherever, whenever, and in whatever form they need. Plus, it also helps them in doing a lot of other things like big data, like business intelligence. Even now with 9.2.5, there's a new change that comes with documentation also coming in terms of changes that you can do. So there's many things that are happening. And as I said earlier, change is the constant thing. Change is the need to help you improvise for future. And that's exactly what at Oracle, at JD Edwards, we're trying to do. The pulse of your business. Now, this is something where how exactly you're trying to derive, you're trying to understand, you're trying to make sure that all the information that is relevant to the business is being made available at the right time. And so there are so many variables going around, like whether my purchase order has been received, whether my sales order has been acknowledged by the customer, whether I've received that inventory because it's important for me to manufacture certain things which are lined up in my production line, whether that credit hold has been released so I can get a new customer on board quickly. All these things are different variables that are running around the organization. And we need a system. You need something where you can enable these triggers, get them actionable, get them to speak to each other so that the actions are taken, the decisions are made, and the results are being seen as soon as possible. That's how the pulse of the business is. Every second, there is an information that is flowing that's critical for the future. All these business users, all these participants of the business users are not only using certain things like executives are using the dashboards. There are people using mobile phones to capture that information. There's somebody transacting right now in a finance department. There are users who are talking to my customers. The marketing people are already talking to advertisers outside. So all these integration has to be laid over the software to make sure that the right information is being plugged out, the right information is plugged in, and at the same time, there is no discrepancies, there are no errors. It's seamless and it's smooth. To enable that, what we have is an architectural, we have an application interface service and an orchestrator. The core of JD Edwards system still does this job, is to collect, process, and store the business data using a good ERP application. And some of the users still continue to sit at the desk and use these systems, for which we want to take it out, which we want to make sure that they can use this system seamlessly, even in these COVID-19 days where they can do it something they can do remotely. They can automate certain process. They can help the system to do certain things while they are not able to do that, because the reason being they can't go to office, or the reason being they can work from home, as simple as possible. But with the orchestrator, you can extend all, like with orchestrator, we can extend all these applications and the business data within JDE out of the digital economy and exposing them using the REST services. This helps us with a lot of opportunities. This helps the business to grow, not only with the mobile, with mobility, with web applications, but also leads to process simplification, integration, and also integrating external systems into JD Edwards or back and forth. Another interesting opportunity that is called as intelligent ERP. And this is what JD Edwards now is trying to be. In other words, it's creating orchestrators that can do things where JD can check certain things on its own when the conditions are met. For example, if a particular work order needs to be created by using, when the machine reading is falling down and it needs to create a work order, it will trigger a message to somebody to do that. So as smart as that, which is what the intelligent ERP is. Some of these microprocesses, as I said, creating, getting an employee joining in, and you need to be alerted for a lease that is expiring on your real estate management system. You need to create a work order because your machines are not showing the right reading. That the readings are falling because there's some issue happening in the machine which needs to be checked. You just want another contract, so you need to create a new contract. You need to be alerted for a customer's limit that's coming down. All these different things are variables running in the business organization that needs to be connected somehow, and that connector is the orchestrator. It helps you not only to connect, but also helps you to drive that information at the right place when it can be connected to the various applications in which JD Edwards can use them, and provide that information back to the business so that the business can start doing that information. It is in a way an innovation where come one day a business user is logging in 9 o'clock Monday morning at his or her desktop or laptop. They come to know what they need to do, all the activities in a step-by-step mode, so they can start completing them. The orchestrator is already run overnight to calculate and let him or her know that these are the 10 things that they need to focus on. It could be the watch list, it could be notification, it could be alerting somebody that there's a work order created, please go ahead and approve, or please go ahead and review it, something like that. So all these activities, microservices, will be playing a very critical role and plays a critical role in helping the orchestrator move and improve the life of business users. Let's look at some of the examples. During my earlier sessions and also now, and also talking to other businesses, I've seen that more than 25 to 30% of machine cost is a part of the bottom line in many organizations, where detecting the cost or detecting that there is an issue creates a problem. But with Orchestrator, but with all these digital tools surrounding JD Edwards and getting regular feeds in terms of how a particular equipment is moving through, be it on kilometers or be it on temperatures or be it something which is more logical to that equipment, which can be used as a tracking device, which can be tracked on a day-to-day basis and get it reported into the equipment master, helps the business, and with the UX1 roles, helps the business user like a plant equipment manager to understand the equipment is moving nicely, the equipment is smoothly functioning, but if in case there is a reading that starts falling down, even before the scheduled maintenance, you can do an intelligent maintenance work order using the orchestrator. That way, you're not disrupting your machine, you're not damaging your machine. At the same time, you're taking the action as and when it needs, rather than when it actually needs it, but you're taking it before the period where it could be 3 months or 6 months down the line where you need to take an action. So it is an intelligent process where you can build these type of steps, and the system will do the rest without your knowledge. Let's look at another example. You need to have all your equipments boarded. Like you're buying a new company, you're buying a set of big asset master from that new company. That asset master needs to be added to your F1201 or their asset master tables, and this needs to be created quickly. Now, if you can export that information, which is not on JD Edwards, or the database is not on JD Edwards but on something else, but you can export it to an Excel, play around with the columns, and then simply use the orchestrator to create those information into the system, yes, you can do that. That becomes the smart thing to do. That helps you to do those things very easily. You're able to create those assets, create those equipment masters. Now with orchestrator, it's not just a single process. Like you do you want to create something, you create an orchestrator and it does. No, you can have multiple layers in that process. Like once you have created something, you can get it notified to your business that, okay, the assets are created. So the asset manager or somebody is aware. At the same time, you can create the equipment master. At the same time, you can have certain other routings and other schedules created. So you're channelizing the whole information, and it is all done. And if there are any errors, it returns back smartly to that business that, yes, I've found this as an error. Let me know what I need to do. Same is the case with employees. Like as I explained about fixed assets or asset masters, same is the case with my employees. I need to tag all my employees, create their payroll information, create their occupational information, all other bank details, everything at one go. And these things are quite challenging when you need to do it manually, or you need to even customize and create programs to make sure that these things run in the right fashion. With Orchestrator, no technical knowledge, still you can do it at a press of a button. And that is the way it works. It needs to be properly created at the first go. You don't need to have technical knowledge, but you can still understand the nuances of where and how each table functions. You're able to create that, you're able to route that information, and there are some tools which I will take you through in my next slide. These are the tools that I use to create the orchestrator. These are the tools that I use to inform that to start using that information from an external source into JDE, so that the information is channelized in the right way. It gets validated, it gets tested, and it gets inserted to the right table in the right format that I want to. Some of the things could be a data request. It could just be a small data transfer where you're just creating some information, could be an asset master, could be a chart of accounts into the system. Others could also include, once it is created, you need to inform certain business users, you need to inform certain external vendors, certain external parties. You need to do that notification and also provide them probably a report. You can put that information as a part of the notification. So you're doing all that in the Orchestrator Studio, creating those different rules, creating those different orchestrators, and at the same time informing the right people at the right time that certain things are created or certain things have gone into error. Can you please have a look? It could be the data could not be, the data could be in the business unit would be having 13 characters instead of 12. And that's where the problem starts, because the business unit will still take those 12 characters, but you're still seeing something red because the data is not correct. Something. So there are tools, there are ways to capture the errors, there are ways to capture that information and send it out to the right team as you want it. How do you put those things into service? Your information goes, your information is on the left hand side of the screen. Your information could be from an external spreadsheet, could be from an external database, could be from an external system, anywhere, or from a web page. Depending on where you have that information, you're pulling that information, putting those services in place, and making sure that all the orchestrator is helping you out to either create that information or add on to the information that is already created, depending on what the logic you have written, depending on what the orchestrator needs to do. It's doing those tasks as you would normally do when you would get an employee coming into board. Like for example, the equipment master. So the status is down, the equipment has gone down. It will either say, okay, do I need to create a work order? Yes. Because it's down, I want somebody to check that equipment, straight away get into that, complete that information and come out. So it is quite significant, quite seamless, and quite easy. Same thing happens to my next one, which is putting a service to use. Now, putting some services to use, it is where you will be able to drive that information. You will be able to channelize the right service. Now, these services are reusable, so you can use any of those services, modify them to the application, to the app that you are trying to bring in. So you may have a work order right now, you may have an extension to that. So you're trying to create a nested work order, nested orchestrator on top of the create work order. You're still able to use the existing one and then channelize that. Next one is onboarding employees. Similar to what we did for the asset master, we need to have that. We need to inform. We need to be it could be created on a spreadsheet. It could be created elsewhere. Just bring that information, trigger that service, pick up that service. The rest, everything will be done by the system. Just wait and watch, and your employees are getting created as soon as those services are there. So orchestrator in total, orchestrator, even in my next example, orchestrator helps you to connect multiple different third-party systems, spreadsheets, cloud services, even your external cloud services. You would be having Salesforce, for example, to help you drive your sales, drive your customer management, drive your CRM, but you need to get that into JDE for some sort of customer management that you want to do, or customer creation that you want to do, or get some customer information back into Salesforce. Yes, Orchestrator is the tool that will help you to do that. And that's what is happening in Australia right now. That's what is happening in New Zealand and in around the islands over here, where customers are using more and more, getting attracted to this, understanding how Orchestrator works, and started using these things to this advantage. Couple of last examples that I have. One is, of course, helping how my equipments can be used to create work orders, which I also had a session in the past where I did a complete case study in terms of how an orchestrator would help you create those equipments when the equipment goes down, how to monitor those temperatures using the UX1, and then creating work orders at the right time, triggering those, notifying the managers that, okay, there's a work order, the equipment is down, it needs to be fixed, get it to it. So it is before, and these are all intelligent or smart ways of doing things, rather than making sure that you wait for the equipment to go down and then you start looking into your diary to call your mechanics. No, that's not the way it works. It has to be done when it needs to be done, rather than you wait for it. So that's where 25% of your bottom line works. It's a big ask. It's a big ask. Lastly, what I would say is, these are all tools which are readily available and can be done by any business analyst. You don't need to have technical and programming skills to create Orchestrator. It's all there. You just need to plug in those. It's like plugging those boxes together and creating an orchestrator which could channelize that information from your external source right into JD Edwards at the source data. Even to make your life more easier, we have started this recorder process. So understand like how you can create a lease master with all the revisions, with all the billing lines and other details and the log lines and other stuff. Now, as you're running through the whole process, and before you start the process, just say record a process, and you start doing the process as if you're doing a manual lease for the first time. You start doing the process. Once you're done with the process, you just say, okay, process done. Now, when you open up those things back in the Orchestrator Studio, all the processes, all the steps that you had completed in order to complete this particular aspect is being recorded by the system, helping you to re-engineer this process, to recreate this process n number of times rather than doing those processes manually. So you have effectively created a process without having any programming skills, without having any technical skills, and you're still able to do that process in a very seamless fashion. Lastly, you can also monitor these processes. You are able to monitor these processes in terms of how these processes are moving, whether there is any errors, whether there is any failures, and that needs to be addressed at the time. So there is a monitoring process which shows the success rate, which shows the health rate of each and every processes that you are running in your organization. And this is just a snapshot of where and how you will be able to see those processes and also monitor them in case there are any errors. The pulse of the organization, back to that. Yes, I hope you all would have got something new today. And with that, I hand it over to Anne.
Thank you very much, Kalpesh. I'm going to discuss with you some of the automations that our Ndevr customers have been able to implement using the JDE Orchestrator. Firstly, let's look at ARB. They are Australia's largest manufacturer and distributor of 4x4 accessories and a long-time user of JD Edwards. Ndevr recently trained ARB on the Orchestrator. They had a requirement to be able to copy bills of material and routings from one branch or state to multiple other states. We decided that we would use this requirement as a use case for the training. Once the training was complete, ARB felt confident to refine and enhance the orchestration to make it robust enough to take into production. The solution did involve a small custom application on their side in order for the user to enter up to 7 branches or the state that the bill and route is to be copied to. The orchestration is then called from a button on this application and copies the information to each branch or state entered. The solution also involves 2 orchestrations, one within the other. The first orchestration establishes whether a branch has been entered in the application, and then, if it has been entered, it calls the second orchestration, which performs the copy. The biggest challenge in automating this process was in error handling. When the application returns an error on one copy, ARB had to be a little bit creative here. They needed to report the error and then continue processing any other copies still to be done. A combination of the standard Orchestrator error handling features and some groovy script messages were used. This ensured smooth running of the orchestration and the correct reporting of errors. This orchestration will mean that ARB's engineering team will save significant time when new products are being released. Also, ensuring the BOM and routing are created in all relevant states and the information is consistent across all relevant states means less delays further down the process and a greater level of accuracy across the board. McGrath is one of Australia's most successful residential real estate groups and also a long-time JD Edwards user. They identified that their accounts receivable team spend a significant amount of time fielding requests for copy invoices and the like. In an effort to cut down on these requests, they decided to automatically email copies of all invoices and receipts to agents and franchisees when they email the statement. Ndevr developed an orchestration to facilitate this. The statement notification is run in JD Edwards as usual. A small customization was included in the statement notification program to call this orchestration. This orchestration then generates the output and emails all three documents, statements, invoices, and receipts, in one single email. Apart from the orchestration development, the statement, invoice, and receipt forms were also updated and developed as part of this exercise. There were a few challenges encountered during the development of this orchestration. Firstly, defining and refining the requirements. Because Robotic Process Automation and Orchestrator were new concepts to McGrath, articulating the requirements and defining them in a way that made sense for Orchestrator was sometimes time-consuming. But just like standard development, the better the upfront design, the quicker and easier the orchestration development is. This is important to remember whenever considering Orchestrator as a solution. Don't skimp on the upfront design. Secondly, specific to this RPA process was a requirement for the orchestration to act differently depending on the environment it was running. Specifically, the orchestration was to email agents and franchisees if it's run in production, but if it was run in any other environment, it was to email an internal address. Luckily, when submitting a job from within an orchestration, the environment is known, so a simple rule could be applied to achieve this. As a phase 2, McGrath are making some changes to this process to improve the information they send to agents and franchisees. And once these improvements are implemented, McGrath expect to see significant time savings for the accounts receivable team. Vicinity started their RPA journey with an interface. They use a system external to JD Edwards to manage their assets. The CapEx budget is managed within JD Edwards. Each time a purchase order is requested in the asset management system, an orchestration is called, which creates the purchase order in JD Edwards by drawing down on the CapEx blanket order. The CapEx blanket order is also created using a different orchestration, as are ad hoc orders. Orchestrator is also used to process the purchase order receipts. Since this first project, Vicinity have developed many additional automated robotic processes. They developed an orchestration that updates the CapEx blanket order if a journal is entered directly against the asset. This ensures that all CapEx spend against the budget is considered, even if it didn't come through the procurement system. Vicinity have software external to JD Edwards, which allows emails to be nicely formatted with different fonts and logos and the like. They have built an orchestration which calls a REST API to format and send the emails from JD Edwards application. This orchestration is generic for any outbound emails from JD Edwards. At the moment, Vicinity use it to send about 6,000 emails to their tenants, reminding them to provide monthly sales data. Prior to this orchestration, each center sent emails to their tenants in their own format, and there was no consistency in formatting or in the timing of the email. This orchestration has enabled the function to be centralized, which ensures consistency across the whole portfolio. In standard JD Edwards, a table trigger is set when the purchase order is approved. A table trigger is set when the purchase order is approved, and an email is sent to the purchase order originator letting them know that the order has been approved. Vicinity also call an orchestration from that same table trigger, which automatically prints and emails the purchase order at the same time. A UBE with the reporting to connect cannot be called directly from a table trigger, so Orchestrator has now provided a means of achieving this. The originator no longer has to manually print the purchase order after it's been approved. Another orchestration they've developed generates the lease commitment accrual journal. This replaces another time-consuming manual process. This is just the beginning for Vicinity. They continue to find innovative ways to use Orchestrator to automate processes and implement process improvements. Through our services with training, support, and enablement, Ndevr have been giving customers the power to implement RPA for themselves. Because Orchestrator is able to be implemented by citizen developers, it is worthwhile ensuring your business analysts are trained in how to design and implement automated processes. Through short courses, Ndevr has been training our customers in Orchestrator. The training enables customers to increase the level of automation across their enterprise. It also helps them recognize which everyday processes can be automated. We have successfully trained some of the teams highlighted in this presentation, as well as several others who are now using Orchestrator to automate processes. Ndevr is unique in that we provide support service options that can give your team direct access to our experienced Australian consulting team. And we are constantly updating our website with content that shows you how to achieve more with your systems. We often include information and insights into Oracle updates, as well as information on complementary third-party software. I'm going to hand back to Kalpesh now so that he can provide information on the latest product updates for you.
Thank you very much, Anne. That's nice to know in terms of how customers innovate and use every little service, every little information within their organization to improvise and get the maximum out of JD Edwards. That's very nice to know. Coming back to what we have learned so far, coming back to what we have understood so far, that yes, it is a factory. It is a factory where all these APIs get created, these information little tidbits gets created, and through that you can channelize a ton of information from an external source into JD Edwards and make sure that your business users can get the right information to take the right action when they need it, in whichever form they can provide. Some of the key updates that happened in 9.2.5 that was released last month is assertion framework for orchestration. Now, orchestrations are a powerful way to automate enterprise one and integrate any third-party systems and IoT devices. The integrity of an orchestration has two critical aspects. First, it runs without error, and second, it produces the data that the designer expects. The assertion framework enables the orchestration designer to specify, in other words, to assert the values that are expected to be produced by an orchestration. For example, the designer might assert that a value is expected to be within a certain range, or even match a specific numeric value. If the orchestration produces a value outside that range, the details of failed assertion are displayed for investigation. For customers who are considering the use of orchestration as test cases, the assertion framework provides a way to define objective success criteria. Plus, other changes which I've seen are optimized revival of large data sets by Orchestrator, allowing variable in REST file upload. So this is something where you can have attachments also going through. So this is something coming up in 9.2.5. It's interesting and amazing as well. Learn JDE. Now, Learn JDE is the place where everything is informed, everything is available. You can get all the videos, the tutorials, the features, the updates to any of the product related to JD Edwards. It's not just the applications, not just the orchestrator, not just the notification, but anything related to JD Edwards, be it functional, be it technical, be it CNC related. You get that information on learnjde.com. I encourage you to visit this website more often to understand anything that you need. And of course, you have Anne and my information and my email addresses. You can contact to us anytime that you need any information, and we'll be happy to help you out. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, both Anne and Kalpesh. Now, we've got a series of questions that have come through already. So the first question is probably for Anne. How hard is it for an experienced business analyst to get up and running with Orchestrator?
Oh, good question. Really, it's not very hard. If you're an experienced business analyst, you're already halfway there. And the videos that are available, obviously Ndevr provide training in any case, but the videos that are available on Learn JDE should get you up and going. You can, one of my customers, I introduced them to Orchestrator one morning. In fact, we spent the day together working through one of their use cases, having never seen Orchestrator before, and that was really all the training that they needed. They Zoomed after that. Well, not Zoomed, because it wasn't a Zoom meeting, it was Orchestrator, but they managed to fly after that. It's not a very big learning curve to get going. Obviously, there are some technical aspects, Groovy and things like that, and the average business analyst probably will not be doing that. They'll need more technical expertise, but 95% of orchestrations don't need that technical expertise in any case.
Okay. This is possibly one for Kalpesh. Does Orchestrator allow any other way of integration apart from REST? For example, if data input is in a spreadsheet or in an email attachment?
Yes, it does, especially from an Excel spreadsheet where you can do a lot of things, where it could be just a simple asset data or even a chart of accounts information that you can straight away absorb it using the spreadsheet and putting it into the right table, which could be F091, F0901, F1201.
Okay. And another question.
Can I add something to that as well?
Sorry.
Can I add something to that? But also another way that you can get information into an orchestration is from a JDE grid, for example. You could use the grid as input to an orchestration. So I just wanted to add that in.
One of the other questions that we've received says, can it mimic human actions like other RPAs do? For example, capture data from PDF, paste inside a form, or change data selection at runtime before submitting a job?
Interesting. Can we take that offline?
Changing data selection, definitely. But the other ones I think we need to take offline.
Okay. Someone's asked how do they go about learning Orchestrator technically? So they're a JD Edwards technical and functional person, and they're wondering about the technologies that they need to understand.
Shall I take this one?
Yes. Great.
Okay. So if you already understand JD Edwards, then really you can use Learn JDE or come to Ndevr. Ndevr offers training courses on Orchestrator, but you can also go to Learn JDE. There is a learning path there if you would prefer to follow that.
Okay. Anne, how long does it typically take to build an orchestration to automate an existing process?
Well, that's a good one. How long is a piece of string? What I can tell you is that it's a lot less time required to create an orchestration than it is to develop the automation through standard methods. A lot less time. Some of them take an hour or two from start to finish. Some can take, more of the complex ones can take a day or 2 or 3 days, depending on how complex they are. So really, it all depends on what you're trying to achieve. Good question.
Okay. I've got 2 separate questions here that are actually quite similar. So the question is, can orchestration use input from a spreadsheet instead of an application? There's another question along the same line. It says, can it read incoming email?
Kalpesh, you want to take that one?
Yep. Well, what was the second one? Cannot read?
Can it read an incoming email?
Well, for email and PDF, I'll have to look into it, because I'm definitely sure there will be it will be a yes, but I just want to double check before I can. So just, I think I'll come back to Shasha for that. In terms of any other data elements for third-party tools, most of the third-party tools are certified to work with Orchestrator. I do have some write-up on that, I can definitely share with Shasha, and probably that can be shared with the team who's excited to understand these things.
Another question. Now, I'm not sure who this one would be for. Can Orchestration IoT, is it able, sorry, I'm struggling to read this one a little bit. Can Orchestration IoT able to corp OCR device and generate an invoice in JD Edwards? I need to leave that open, a little bit open to interpretation. Sorry, there's a little bit, I'm not quite sure what's intended.
Yeah, well, that would depend on how the OCR communicates. So if the OCR can call a REST service, then the then the OCR can call an orchestration. That's really how the outside world, so to speak, OCRs, mobile apps, other equipment, other software, how it communicates with Orchestrator is via REST services. So that's the key. Kalpesh, anything to add to that? No,
that's fine. I think it's how the third-party tools are REST enabled, and you're absolutely right. If they can call it, the rest of the things can be configured in JD.
Okay, and this one's definitely for you. Are you able to tell us a little bit more about how ARP are using GroovyScript in Orchestrator?
Oh, okay. Well, what they've needed was because they had a grid where they input the items that they needed, the bombs and routes copied, the ones that they wanted copied, and they enter the items, and then they enter where they want them copied to. There were multiple places where the copy could possibly have failed. And what they needed to return a message to the grid. Now you can do that via the orchestrator, but it's not really nicely formatted. So all we did with the GroovyScript was we formatted the error message. If the copy failed, we formatted the error message to say the copy has failed. Go and check your work center for information. Or there's another message saying the copy was successful. So that was the sort of thing that we were doing with the GroovyScript in that instance.
Okay. I'm just going to give us a moment just to see if there's any further questions coming through. Any last questions out there? Yes, okay. If a process involves data entry in multiple softwares, including JD Edwards, can we automate end-to-end processes of just the JDE part? Oh, that's tricky.
Can you read it again, Sasha?
So if a process involves data entry in multiple software, including JDE, can just the JD Edwards part be automated?
Yes, if it makes sense to automate it, yes. So what would you do with the other data entry, and how would it be triggered in JD Edwards? But certainly, yes. If you're talking about the same information being entered into multiple systems, oh yes, most definitely. You can automate the JDE part from the other systems, yes, by picking up the information from the other systems and then automating it into JD Edwards.
Someone else has just asked, what is the cost, or is this out of the box? Now, I assume they're talking about is Orchestrator. I can only assume that they're talking about Orchestrator part of it. Yes.
Sorry, the cost, are they saying, Sasha?
Yes, sorry, it's a little bit ambiguous as to the cost of what.
Okay, well, if it's the cost of the orchestrator, it comes free with your tool. You don't actually pay anything extra for it. Yes, other costs you might have to speak to your salespeople, but the orchestrator itself is free and gratis with your tool, with your JDE tool.
Yes.
Just to add to that, it comes with a basic 9.2 tool. So you have to have, if you are not on 9.2, you need to come to 9.2. So there would be, you need to migrate and move to 9.2 to take advantage of the orchestrator.
Okay. All right. I'm going to make that the last question. So thank you, everybody, for taking the time to join us today. What we will do is send out any remaining questions to our presenters. We'll get some written responses to those, and I'll include those questions and answers to you with the link to the recording. And I'll be sending a link to today's recording session out soon, and we'll make it available as well through Ndevr's website. So thank you once again for joining us.
Thanks very much, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.